Ladies and gentlemen, my apologies. We had a little technical difficulty with getting my video unmuted. I hope all of you have had a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. This was a great time for us to be able to get together with family and friends, whether in person or virtually these days. And also a time for us to remember those who've given the ultimate sacrifice for us and for our freedoms. Those servicemen and women who have died in their support of the United States and the freedoms that we all have today. And I think it's important that we not forget why we have these celebrations. It's not about just coming together, but coming together to recognize the great sacrifices of those before us. I also want to thank all of you who've participated in the Blue Fund, raising additional dollars to help with the university's management of COVID-19 for our faculty, our students, and our staff. It's been a successful campaign to date. I encourage you to all continue to participate if possible. We do have a $35,000 pledge from Huntington Bank as a match for those dollars. And I, again, thank Huntington Bank for everything they've done for us. I do want to spend a little bit of time talking about three specific topics with you today. The first one is our return to work plan. As most of you are aware, the governor has made substantial changes within the state of Ohio that are also very aligned with those across the United States. The governor's now allowed opening of nearly every sector of business, including the ability to have events for up to 300 people. Now, those are all going to happen under conditions of safety with the plan for face masking, social distancing, self-reporting of symptoms that are consistent with the virus and viral transmission, as well as the necessity for all of us to continue hand hygiene and taking every effort to keep us all safe. A number of studies have showed that if you implement these well, that this is as effective as what we've been doing with shelter in place. And so we're going to really work hard to make sure that's implemented on our campus as we move forward with a return to work plan. Dr. Joe Zarconi, many of you who know Dr. Zarconi at our institution, he's been here with us for many, many years, really well thought of and highly competent clinician, has led a team of individuals to help put together this plan for how Neomed starts to come back to work in full force. As you know from our last updates, we did our phase one, which was having campus operations, the police department, and also for those researchers who had self-identified critical research, moving first to one and then eventually having up to 3 laboratory technicians present to be able to conduct their research efforts on campus. This has gone off very well. Everybody has been following the social distancing requirements and the other measures that have been put in place to ensure the safety of our members of our campus. The next phases will be sectored in on June 8th, then July 6th, and then finally August 3rd, though we expect that last group to be a relatively small number. The decision for bringing these back is based on the need for us to open our campus back up to students that will begin as early as July 21st and being prepared to have the campus fully ready to welcome our students back. Now that is going to be a little bit different than the way we've been practicing in the past. This new plan, which will be communicated broadly to our organization on June 1st in my weekly update next week, along with written communication, will lay that plan out in more detail. The group that Dr. Zarconi has been working with will have a fully cemented plan completed by the end of this week. Some of the elements of this will include some individuals still spending some time working from home. It will also include the potential for those who are in close quarters to work in shifts, but we will be able to phase this back in and do it in a way that's going to keep everybody as safe as possible. Our return to campus plan, which is a little bit different, is around bringing our students back onto campus. And there have been a large number of state and national-based studies that are helping to guide us as we make these decisions. This will include not returning to 100% in-class education, but a mixture that will keep our students socially isolated so that our large conference rooms will be able to keep the 6-foot distancing between students, keep students in one section so that during a period of a day, what they're utilizing, that space will be the same space for their entire education for that period, so that we do not have to come in and require a huge amount of resources to clean in between each class so that people who are changing spaces don't have issues of contamination. We'll enforce the masking, the hand hygiene, and we'll have social contracts in place for individuals to undergo the mandated screening so that they will not come on campus if they have any symptoms that are consistent with an upper respiratory infection or any other symptoms that we're learning about associated with COVID-19, including fevers. Specific individuals who report will be asked to be cleared by a physician before returning to campus, and that may or may not require testing. That will be up to the clinical discretion of the physician who is reviewing those individuals for safety to come on campus. We've got a good plan that's going into place, and again, it will be available to everybody on June 1st, and we will then get to socialize that, get some input on it, but right now things are going well, and fortunately our campus is looking out for each other, and everybody who has returned so far has been following the rules. So I want to thank all of you for that. It's really key that we abide by the policies and procedures that have been put into place because they're here for all of you. It's for our faculty, our students, our staff, and of course for the families that you're going to be going home to at the end of the day. The changes will be noticeable beyond just what we're going to do individually. For instance, the plan is in line with what's being recommended at the state level, that places like the bistro, instead of having the ability to come in and have sit-down meals, that you will be having the opportunity for a grab and go. Food will be available, that you can purchase it, pick it up, and leave. It's clear that you will need to be able to drop your mask to be able to eat, but we're going to ask that you be spaced out, and we're structuring the campus with engineering measures in place to ensure that happens. So we will be moving forward. There will be notable changes. And some of those will also include the need to expand our campus space. The things we do that are most important on this campus are education and research. And education is something that we have a commitment to the state and to our students for. And in order to be able to expand our abilities to teach under this social distancing rule, we're going to need new teaching venues, places that we've not really used for education in the past that can accommodate larger groups and keep them safe, which means that we're looking at plans for taking the ballroom in other areas of the new center and utilizing those for education so that we can adequately educate our students. Now, we're looking very closely at how to make these arrangements with our partners in a way that makes sense financially, that conference services, the things that we also do on campus that bring off-campus communities onto NeoMed can still do these, but at a time frame where it's not going to affect education at the university and in a way that's not going to have a financial strain on the university. So we are working diligently to get these in place. Our Board of Trustees, led by Mr. Paul Bishop, our chair, will be reviewing our budget plans on June 3rd. So everything's got to be fully baked for them to be able to review in a very short period of time. And once we have their approval and permission to move forward with our plan, we'll do so. This also, as you know, is going to include some tightening of the belt for all of us on campus. Unfortunately, the reductions that are coming our way from the state and some of the reductions we are expecting in enrollment, probably more for our graduate colleges than anywhere else, are going to have pretty substantial financial impact on the university. Now, I've said before, I think that we're in better shape than most other universities in the state, and for that matter, from the nation. As you may be aware, all the other universities in the state, the public institutions, have announced substantial restructuring of their academic programs, dropping a significant amount of academic programs and teaching programs that would normally be offered, mass layoffs, mass furloughs, and across the board salary cuts. We've engineered a plan at Neomed where we should be able to avoid all of those elements. However, the dollars do need to be redistributed somewhere. So what we're doing is we're working to realign Neomed's rich benefits in line with those of the other state universities. That means we're looking for an average of a 20-80 split on healthcare expenditures. We're looking at a change for our tuition benefit, and we're going to slightly increase the cost of parking permits at the university, something that hasn't gone up at the university in over 5 years. These are not going to be dramatic, and we've already structured them in such a way that those who are in the lower payment tiers will have very little, if any, impact whatsoever, and the majority of it will be absorbed by those at the very highest pay tiers of our organization. Still not intended to be substantial relative to the overall salaries that these individuals are getting compensated for their work efforts at the university. Can we maintain this? That's something that unfortunately we can't promise right now, but our hopes are that that will be the case. We're preparing for what we're told will likely be the most common and biggest impact scenarios from the state. If those happen to be overestimates, then our intent would be to continuously monitor, and then if we hit a period as late as November or even December of this coming year, that we would be able to reassess, and if the reductions are not as large as we expected them to be, then to be able to come back to our faculty and to our staff and to be able to make changes that are badly needed. We know that our faculty and our staff have not had any increase to base in many years. We know that you do incredible work to support this organization, and it is our job to make sure that you are adequately compensated and rewarded. We're asking you to do a lot to tighten your belts right now. However, if we find ourselves able to give back and to reward the wonderful work efforts of our team, once we realize what the big impact will be from the state, if we're able to do so, then my intent is to do so, again, with the support and partnership of our Board of Trustees to ensure that we're doing this in a judicious manner to reward our team and to look after the financial sustainability of our organization. More will come very shortly in a full communication as to what our plans are. I tell you, there have been many areas that we're focused on. One, we're going to reduce the total number of events that we hold as an organization, at least for the next fiscal year. This is in line with what the state has recommended anyway, and this is also something that we've become accommodating to because it's our new normal. I would expect not to have any large gathering events for the university itself on our campus. These tend to be fairly costly. One of those that I mentioned already, I've decided to eliminate early on, was the Presidential Inauguration. While these tend to be celebrations for a university that recognize events through pomp and circumstance, it is not something that I see as a wise use of our dollars right now. We also know that majority of university travel is not going to be required over the next academic year, as most meetings and events that we attend to academically are being shut down or they're being transferred to virtual-based meetings. So we're pushing a 70% total reduction in travel expenditures for the university. For non-personnel costs, meaning not having to do with our individual team members' pay or benefits, we're pushing a 5% reduction on the day-to-day expenditures that we have within the university. And again, following the governor's rules, we've put in a hiring freeze And we are also putting in a freeze on increases to salaries and bonuses. Again, as I mentioned earlier, we'll reevaluate those as we start to understand what the true impact will be on our financials as the next fiscal year starts to develop. But the goal is to keep us whole, to keep our team intact, and to be able to offer the great services in education, research, and service that define who we are at Neomed, as we are truly an outstanding organization who's graduating talented and highly capable healthcare professionals and researchers for Northeast Ohio. More will come on that. And of course, this all requires our Board of Trustees input and approval before we can actually launch any of these changes in a meaningful way. And so please stand by and stay tuned. I do need the board to weigh in with us and to be able to authorize this before we start any substantial communication around these budget item areas. The additional topic that I really wanted to make sure that we covered today was our strategic plan. Many of you know that we've undertaken a reevaluation of who we are as an organization and what our future should look like. And this ties very closely to our budget. To be able to do this, I need to know from you what it is you think we do well, what it is you think we need to not perform as part of our organizational mission, what our vision is, what should we look like in the next 3 to 5 years, what are our areas for smart growth, because we can't be focused on just cuts. We need to understand better ways to deliver value, high reward, high value programs for our students, how to grow our faculty and our staff to increase their capabilities within the organization, to make us better at what we do, and to find new areas that are aligned with who we are for growth. So please continue to answer the surveys that were sent out. There were about 7. The first survey had an outstanding participant level of over 300 of the 600 members it was sent out to. And we will be closing that survey off at the end of this week. We talk about shared governance. Shared governance is the ability to decide in who we are as an organization, to make decisions for planning, for growth, for policies and procedures by understanding the needs of our organization and giving them input. And to do this, we need to do this initially through surveys, because we just can't bring 600 people into a room for many hours on end trying to figure out what each of you thinks we should be doing. This is a way for you to contribute, to be part of the organization and its future and for its growth. So I encourage all of you to please participate if possible. And with that, I want to again thank all of you for everything you've done, for weathering this storm that we've gone through so well, shutting down our operations, starting them up virtually, and now for your support and understanding we are doing everything we can to ensure your safety as we start to undo this, but not completely, in a way that's going to create this new normal on our campus. Part of the phased-in approach is to ensure that we're monitoring it, we're doing it safely, and we can undo it if necessary in a really rapid manner again. But this is in line with where the rest of our country is going and where the governor of the state of Ohio has indicated he feels it's safe for us to be able to do it. So now I'd like to open it up to questions for all of you, and thank you for the time to be able to give you this update.
Will students return in the fall, and when will you know for sure, just because we have to sign rent contracts and prepare for the semester?
Thank you. I was muted by the system again. My apologies for that. So yes, we are going to return students for the semester. The College of Medicine will bring its new students on for orientation on the 21st of July. Now, there will be some variances in how we've done this in the past. So we'll likely split the class because of its large size, have them in different locations on campus, and we are going to figure out what the appropriate balance of virtual and in place is. We are required to run laboratories to educate our students. We'll have some small group discussions, and it will be up to the individual deans to determine how they go about doing this in a way that's safe for the students, but also meets our educational requirements that are mandated upon us by the accrediting body that we fall under. So yes, we will be back on campus.
Any chance that we will have summer Friday hours again, or summer hours?
Summer hours, can you, let's clarify that a little bit. We are operating on summer hours now that are much more expansive than usual, but when we return to campus with our students, we will be back to regular hours on our campus. So we're gonna be back in full force.
I think traditionally this Friday summer hours was on Friday off at 3.
Yeah, well, there have been changes now to the curriculum in general that will dictate that. I know, for instance, the College of Medicine's new curriculum substantially limits the number of hours students are actually in the classroom and on campus. So those are things that we'll have to figure out as we go, because there have been changes to the way we're doing business.
Will there be exception given to returning to campus parents of children whose daycares and day camps have been canceled?
We are having a phased-in approach, and if folks need to be here because they're seen as critical for the next phase in operations, then of course we are going to need to be here. The state has opened up the ability for daycare now, and they've also opened up the capabilities for summer camps. Now they're going to be performed a little bit differently, but those opportunities will be there. And so essentially we're going to be looking at running the organization the way it's been run over summers in the past. We can take some circumstances into account, and that's going to be worked out with supervisors. The majority of campus will not be back to work on June 8th, but schools are generally not run over summers. And so we are going to ask that people start to look at what opportunities will be available as they find out from their supervisors that they're going to be needed back on campus.
Are the surveys you mentioned in your update available in one common link, or they come out in individual links?
They came out in individual links, and the reason we did that was I didn't want to overburden our team with really lengthy surveys that would result in 45 minutes or an hour sitting at the computer. It causes fatigue, and it's really hard for you to contribute under those circumstances, because over time you want to get off the survey. So we broke them down into 7 specific categories. Some of those categories you may see that it's not within the area that you want to contribute. So for instance, a head of curriculum for the College of Medicine may not see it useful to contribute to the survey on research. And if that's the case, that's a decision for them to make. What you're deciding is whether you want to contribute to shared governance in that particular area. And that was the philosophy behind breaking it up, so that these were short 5 to 10 minute surveys that you could complete pretty rapidly, get them out of your way, and not feel they were an overall burden on your workday.
For those of us in open office spaces, or those of us who do not interact with students, it seems unnecessary for us to be included in the first few phases. Will employees have any input on which phase they are told to come back to campus in?
The input for that's going to be based on the supervisors working with the deans. And again, it's always looking at safety first. And this is a high anxiety time. I understand that. At some point, we're all going to come back to campus. The college executive management team is going to start back first, along with the campus operations team that's already in place. The police force is already in place. And by July 8th, we're going to open it up for our researchers to bring their full staff and complement back in order to conduct research on our organization following our safety protocols. But we all will be coming back. It's just bringing it back in phases so that we can ensure that we understand how we're doing it, we understand the safety measures that are in place, and we understand that what we're doing is actually working appropriately. Now, we've also done this very slowly. The rest of the state is already back. You can go get a haircut now. You can get a tattoo if you choose to, or a body piercing. I bring these up because they're close contact types of employment where you're working and touching individuals. We're behind on that intentionally. So we're watching what's happening with the rest of the community. And if we see a surge, if we see that something concerning is happening, we're going to come back and we're going to change what we're doing. But for now, the experiment, and this is an experiment, is taking place nationwide. We've gone slowly watching others, and currently what we're doing is not recreating a surge right now. And the surge, I want you to remember, the surge's intent, preventing that surge, was not overwhelming our health systems. Many of us are still going to contract the virus over time, just like we're going to catch the flu over time and other types of ailments that are transmissible. The key is to ensure we do not overwhelm our health systems. And if we start to see that happen, we know the state's going to come in and mandate going back to flattening the curve. They're going to ask us to undo many of the things that we've done. So we're going slowly, very intentionally, to keep this a safe practice, constantly monitoring. And our hopes are that we don't have a recurrent surge. Some of the things that we're going to have to do as an institution is preventing that surge and preventing it from becoming worse. So some of those measures are going to be the ones I've discussed: the social distancing, the face masking, the hand hygiene, the monitoring of symptoms. Other things that we're going to mandate, unless there is a medical reason in place not to, is that we're going to have an expectation for flu vaccinations on our campus. The key reason is they present with the same symptoms. And we're going to have to assume it's COVID-19 unless proven otherwise, which means individuals are not going to be allowed on campus. They're going to be quarantined. And the expectation is the combination of the flu virus and COVID-19 together could potentially lead to a surge that's far worse than anything we've seen in the past. And we have a vaccine for the flu virus. We hope to have a vaccine for COVID-19. And if we do, they're both going to be mandatory requirements for being on campus, unless an individual has a physician's note explaining why that individual would be at risk and couldn't have it.
When will benefit changes be announced or finalized?
We have to have approval for these from our Board of Trustees because it's overall part of the broader budget plan. The intent would be they would be implemented in the next fiscal year, which starts on July 1st.
Will there be half online this year, or is fall planned to be fully on campus in person?
For educational purposes, we do not expect to be full in person. We expect a hybrid model. Some of the numbers that have been thrown out by the deans of the colleges have been 50-50. I think those are estimates. It's got to be based on our total classroom availability under the social distancing rules that will be in place, the need for mandatory laboratories such as gross anatomy, histology, compounding for pharmacy, and the need for small classroom space. So it will be a hybrid model, that I'm certain of. Just what that mix is going to be, we don't know yet. So our students will be on campus. They're going to be expected to be on campus and in the area. We are running an educational program to teach the practice of healthcare and also for life sciences research. And that means being here, and that means being prepared to graduate as completely competent individuals, which requires education that some elements require us to be in place for. In fact, our students are returning to the clinics on June 1st for the majority of them, and June 15 seems to be the latest time to completely sequence our students back into the hospitals, into the family practice office, taking care of patients in a hands-on manner.
Final question. Will holds on salary increases include faculty tenure and promotion-based salary increases?
For now, yes. Until we get a better understanding of our finances. And so what our intent is, as soon as we really understand where we go next year, this next fiscal year, which starts July 1st, when we know, those will also be the first individuals that we will come back to and try and correct, along with our lower tier pay earners who are here supporting our university mission, because we understand that these are the people who come in and don't always receive the same benefit, compensation benefit that those who are in higher tiers receive. For instance, we are also working with a consulting group that was, this was a plan that was put in place by the previous administration and supported now. They're looking at how we structure compensation at this university for our staff, understanding whether or not positions are appropriately categorized. Are there ones that need to be elevated? Are there ones that should remain the same? And understanding how we're compensating relative to our peer group, which they would note that peer group to be other universities and other community colleges in the area. Now we're going to have to look at that relative to COVID-19 when we're seeing so many other reductions taking place where faculty at other universities are not getting raises, but they're actually getting their salaries cut. And staff who are getting salary cuts and others who are being let go. While these are always difficult decisions and we always think about them in light of our own personal impact, what I'm trying to do is to look at the greater good, our ability to complete our mission at a very high level and successfully educate and complete research, but at the same time be able to protect our team, to maintain your positions, to maintain benefits as best as possible, because we are having a reduction in the amount of dollars coming into this university. And those reductions have to come from somewhere. I'm trying to make them as pain-free as possible by taking a lot of the financial hits on programs at the president's office level, national level programs that we belong to, and then looking at things like cutting the events that we hold, freezing new hires, and other types of measures that are going to not force us to do furloughs and layoffs. So I know this is tough, and I know this is one of the biggest impacts on our community, but at the same time, our goal is to keep almost everybody employed and keep strong benefits in place to look after you and your family members. So I know it's tough, but I ask you to bear with us because we really are trying to look after the best interest of our team and of Neomed. And I thank all of you for everything you're doing for us to help us support that. Thank you. Have a wonderful week. More information will be coming out, especially next Monday. And then again, the following week, once the Board of Trustees has had a chance to take a look at our plan and ensure that what we're doing is mission appropriate and in the best interest of the organization from their perspective as really the leaders of this university.